The housing market isn't working. Buying property is the worst value for money it's ever been. Yet the desire for a proper home is as strong as ever. What can be done? This week in The Truth About Property, I'll be asking how we can solve Britain's housing shortage and make homes affordable.
If you were to start paying the mortgage at £1,200 and the interest rates to go up and default on the mortgage, we're going to be left homeless.
I'll be looking at the obstacles in the way. How do you spot it?
It's quite a pale green leaf.
When you just look at this, if you can't build housing here, you sort of wonder where you can build housing.
And seeing how some people are trying to buck the market.
I bought that land. I can stay on my land from light to dark, and none of you can stop me.
Dominic Morgan is a senior paramedic. He and his family live in Amesbury, Wiltshire, and have 4 children, 3 of them still living at home. His wife Denise works at the local chippy 3 nights a week, as well as the school kitchen during the day. Dominic's what's known as a key worker, but he doesn't do just one key job, he does 2. As well as being a paramedic, he's on call 100 hours a week as a retained firefighter. But even with 4 jobs between them, the Morgans still can't afford to buy a house locally.
It's been very difficult as a key worker because your lifestyle is limited in what you can earn, you know, because of the type of industry you work in. What's happened is that as we've moved up, we've actually got myself into a slightly better financial position and being rewarded more. I'm competing against a housing market which is just running away.
The Morgans live in rural Wiltshire, so there's not a lot to choose from. And their budget's limited. Denise has spent a long time looking for a house.
I've got a couple here. This one is on South Mill Road. It's on at 183 and a half, and that's a 3-bedroom. It's worth having.
But they've got another problem as well. Like all retained firefighters, Dominic has to live very close to the fire station.
How quick does he have to get there? Is there a time limit?
Not a time limit. I mean, he obviously has to be there within a 2-mile radius, but the quicker the better, really.
OK. Shall I just show you on the map sort of the areas in which we cover? You're probably looking at this sort of area here.
OK.
Now, if Boscombe Down...
A 2-mile radius doesn't give them much choice. Rising house prices have outstripped every pay increase they've had. So however hard they work, buying keeps drifting further out of reach.
It's not just a case of owning a house because we want the right to do things to this house. It's looking long term. We don't want to be paying rent when we're in our 60s.
In a sense, it isn't the desire to have all those huge investment gains that many people your age have had. It's more fear that your children won't have the chance to afford a house.
Yeah, if we're struggling to buy now, what's going to happen to our children? How are they going to get a foothold on the housing ladder if we don't do something about getting ourselves on it and perhaps having some sort of asset that we can use in later life?
We tend to think it's young people who can't get on the property ladder, but it's also people with families and professionals who can't afford the house they need, including people like me. When I sold my house at the end of 2004, banked the money and started to rent, I worked out the only way I'd lose is if house prices continued to rise quite quickly. Unfortunately, they have. I'm quids out and I'm priced out. I can afford to rent around here, but no way could I afford to buy. The Howard family are priced out too. They missed the property boat by living abroad, while Petra's husband worked in the armed forces. Petra's from Germany, they've got 2 children, and now they're back, they need a permanent home.
Hello.
Hi, you must be Petra.
Yep.
Andy, nice to meet you.
Come in.
Having rented over many years, Petra's desperate for a place of her own again. In a way, you're always living in someone else's house.
Yeah.
How frustrated does that make you feel?
I feel my life is on hold, that's what it is. We never bought anything new because we always said, in the next house, in the next house, in the next house. But then we moved again, and now we're saying once we settle down, we buy new furniture. And still we haven't settled down, so it's just everything. I cannot settle down.
Even when you agree on buying, record prices can cause disagreement.
What sort of conversations do you have?
Apart from the massive arguments.
Is it really a source of argument sometimes?
It's becoming it's a huge pressure on our marriage, the whole situation with housing, to be quite honest with you. Well, there's the first part is you're having to go out and look for a house, so there's a lot of work to do with that. Then you can't find a home that fits the simple criteria that we've set down for ourselves, you know, affordability, close to a good school, or weekends, or just looking for houses. Petra's on the internet constantly on the different websites trying to find a home.
Not to mention visiting estate agents. I'm joining Petra on a weekly house hunting expedition. She's got a big budget of £350,000, but can she get what she needs?
This is the basic sort of semi-detached house.
3 bedrooms, semi-detached, yeah.
The range is going to be starting around the sort of 350 mark. Go and have a look.
Whether they can afford a house in Pinner is touch and go, even one like this.
Here you go. This is your typical 1930 semis that you're going to get within the Pinner area. It does need a little bit of work, but you can always change the internals.
Well, it depends on the price, huh?
379,950.
Where's that price coming from? Every time I walk into a house, I'm shocked.
So as you can see, it still needs a little bit of work.
A little bit of work? What happened here?
To look at the windows, you would think they would need some TLC.
So, excuse my bedroom?
It's not much space, is it? Look at this. You can touch both walls at once.
Oh, another little dumb problem.
Fancy a bath?
Nice and black.
It needs a lot of work. What would the house doctor say?
That's the kitchen.
Recently redone. It's a reasonable standard.
What do you think of the units?
Well, I don't like them, so I would rip it out.
What else would you do if you did buy it?
Bathroom.
Wallpaper?
Wallpaper, floors.
Carpets?
Carpets.
Curtains?
What wouldn't you do?
What I wouldn't do? I wouldn't buy this house.
It's beyond their budget and it needs thousands spending on it. I'll come back to Petra later and find out why she feels she needs to own. In London, I caught up with some young people demonstrating outside a property investment show. The trebling of prices in recent times has priced them out.
I find this extremely hard. I know I can't even buy my own home. It makes me wonder whether going to university and everything was actually worth it. To be honest, if it carries on the way it does, I'll seriously look at emigrating. How is that good for society?
It's really widening the gap between rich and poor. People with property are the ones who are able to get more, and that's what inequality is. And people who don't have anything are, completely disenfranchised. I can't afford to get an ex-council flat in most places, which makes me think something's going wrong somewhere, that you're going to be disincentivising young people.
All I'm asking for is what everyone in the previous generation had. I just wanted to have a stake in society, and I feel that's been denied my generation.
We need more homes than ever before, partly because more of us are living alone, but also because population's rising quickly. There are simply more of us. This won't solve the problem, but what other property programme could come up with a 5-bed home for just 85 grand?
I got fed up with that camper van, so I've decided to upgrade to more salubrious accommodation. Oh, let's have a look. Gas hob, you can do your cooking. Sink, I won't bother with that right now. I can make myself at home here. Good if you're a vain TV presenter type. Ah, just what I needed. Right, night.
This bus was designed for hospital workers on the night shift.
I need to know this. Do you pay council tax on this moving house?
No, thank goodness.
Because it's mobile, no council tax.
Mobile, no council tax.
I've invited the minister in charge of sorting out Britain's housing shortfall, Yvette Cooper, on board to join me.
Anyway, we've brought affordable housing to Westminster, right outside your office. So I wonder if you might step inside. Thank you.
We've seen, in the long term, house prices rise much faster than earnings because there's simply not been enough houses built. If you look over the last 3 decades of the 20th century, we saw a 30% increase in the number of households, but alongside that, we saw a 50% drop in the level of house building. That's not sustainable.
Last year, work began on 168,000 homes. The government says we'll need to build 72,000 more than that each year, and last week an official report said even that's not going to be enough.
So the question is why, when so many people want houses, aren't more of them being built? Why doesn't supply rise to meet demand? Well, the man with the answers might be right there in your pocket. On the back of a £20 note, Adam Smith, founder of free market economics, he says that when prices stay high for a long time, it's not a true free market. Something is interfering.
I want to find out what that could be. This is Basingstoke. They're building here all right. It's one of the fastest growing areas of the country. It won't be the only place needing to grow this fast. The government's got a target of 240,000 houses. Only 70,000 will officially be called affordable by 2011. Even with builders at full tilt, they can't keep up with demand. I'm going to try and find out why by asking some of the key players involved. Meet the council leader, the landowner, the developer, the locals, and the man who's excluded from buying in his own hometown. Carlos is still living with his parents as he can't find anything he can afford to buy. But as a 36-year-old single engineer earning a good living, he feels he should be able to have his own home. He hates living at home and tries to live a separate existence where possible.
He has his own room and does his own thing. He has his own phone. I would like to see him with a place on his own, you know.
Carlos is grateful for his parents' support. He just wants his own space.
It's difficult. You have to, in a way, you have to detach yourself from your family, which is wrong, which obviously then puts a stress into the situation that you shouldn't have to go through. You can't bring anybody home, be it friends or possible partner or a partner. Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Carlos wants to stay in Overton, a village on the edge of Basingstoke, where he's lived all his life. It's not as if he's struggling on a low wage.
I earn around 30,000 a year.
That's above average wage.
It's good wage, but you just can't do it on your own. It's just incredibly difficult.
I guess if you're earning 30 grand, you could get a mortgage 5 times your salary of 150.
Yeah.
What would that buy you?
150,000 will buy you in this village nothing.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all. I would be very surprised you get anything for 150 in this village.
Not even a one-bed flat?
No.
It's just the sort of place that someone who made a lot of money in the City of London would want to come and live, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that is what's starting to happen here now.
Doesn't it mean all that money coming in, paying huge prices for houses, prices the locals out?
It does, and that is obviously a contentious issue at the moment.
In the late 60s, we built nearly 200,000 council houses a year. Now, councils build less than 250. Nationwide, there's a policy that new private developments, like this one at Sherfield Park, must include affordable housing. When this site was built, 20 houses out of every 100 were built for this purpose. I'm going to start with the developer.
Essentially, we now build the council housing. It's called affordable housing. It has different forms of tenure, whether it's rented or shared ownership, but we build, if you like, subsidised housing these days.
How has that affected your business?
Because we don't make any profit on the affordable housing, essentially to stand still, I've got to build more houses.
Building affordable housing is largely left to the private sector because for years local authorities haven't been allowed to spend the proceeds of selling more than 1.5 million council houses.
OK, so how long from the moment that you took an interest in the land to the time when you actually started building?
On Sherfield Park, it was 9 years when we first required the option up till starting work on site and building houses.
9 years?
9 years, and that includes the time to get the land zoned for housing, to get outline planning consents, to get detailed planning consents, to get all the technical approvals for the drainage and the highways.
OK, you're making my head spin now, but that's approvals you're getting from the local authority mostly holding things up, is it?
Yes, and obviously you deal with not just one local authority. At Sherfield Park we've got both the Borough Council and we've got the County Council, and you have water authorities, you have the service companies.
All right, we get the message. The developers say planning and administration holds them up, and it's often the council's fault. I'm off to see what the council leader says.
If you take this particular site, I understand that the master plan for this was approved in the late 90s, and here we are, and only 200 houses, or just over 200 houses, have so far been developed.
Well, you're complaining about it, but the developers almost imply that it's the local council's fault that it's taken 9 years to get this far.
They're bound to blame somebody, aren't they? We're not going to take all the blame for that.
Developers have been accused of dragging their feet while prices rise, but it's surprising the number of things that can slow the pace.
At Sherfield Park, we had to build a bat roost.
A bat roost?
A bat roost, so the bats could go and live there before we knocked down some of the existing buildings on the site.
Were the bats interested in moving in?
No, I'm afraid at the minute we've heard the bats find the new bat roost too drafty, which is disappointing, obviously, for us, but hopefully they'll get to love it in time.
The bats aren't the only creatures whose lives are disrupted. The human neighbours who object get labelled NIMBYs, not in my backyard. They're all arguing over land, the biggest element of the price of a house. How does anything ever get built? I'm off to meet a town planner in his war room to get an overview. So explain how it works, Kelvin. If this is you, the planner.
Here you've got national policy coming in. Got national policy which says build those 240,000 homes a year. Over here, for example, European policy coming in there saying, but you've got to protect all these protected species. And so already you've got two sets of policies that are conflicting with each other.
Then there are some local authorities who fight central government over the number of houses they think should be built in their area. And that's not all.
Here's some friends of mine, the NIMBYs.
Here they come. Not very organised, but they're coming in here saying, well, actually, we don't want to build any of the houses in this area. Again, for sometimes very valid reasons. Backed up, often, by local government with all their policies. Your local council, where really the crunch hits, but it comes down to that local authority that has to really decide and bring all these different views together.
None of this is helping Carlos to find a house he can afford to buy, so subsidised housing, or the housing list, may be his only chance. How many people waiting for housing?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 people in the Basingstoke and Dean area.
Have you been on that list?
I am on the list, yeah, and I've been told I've got somewhere between 7 to 10 years waiting time before I'll be eligible for property.
7 to 10 years?
Yeah, because of the fact I'm a single man with no dependents. So it just becomes, incredibly frustrating when you sit there going, how am I supposed to get a house?
Carlos thinks a return to council house building may be the only solution.
When we had the right to buy, which is a great idea, those houses were bought up where they weren't replaced with any more. So this is the situation we're facing now, 20 years on.
It's clear, despite being one of the fastest growth areas in the country, even Basingstoke isn't able to keep up with demand for housing. Back in Wiltshire, Dominic and Denise have been renting from a housing association for 13 years. They want to buy, and their wish may be granted. They're being offered the house at a discount. They're hoping this might bring the price down to around 165 grand. Dominic may be some kind of superhero, but could he cope with that?
If you got yourself a good mortgage deal to buy at that sort of price, how would that change how much you're coughing up each month on housing?
Well, we would go from £415 to around about, with the associated life insurance of having to have a mortgage and the extra insurances, over £1,200.
So it's nearly trebling?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's a bit of an intimidating prospect when you've got children to look after.
It is.
Members of the family have started to tighten their belts in preparation for the shock of mortgage payments. But they can only squeeze their budget so far, however important buying their house is. Today is the moment of truth.
Hi, come on in.
The Housing Association has sent a chartered surveyor round to value the Morgans' house. Everything depends on what he says. It's tense as they wait in the kitchen.
If it goes above £175,000, then we're going to have a problem.
Out of the question then, isn't it, really?
The house has one fairly small bathroom and 3 bedrooms, but downstairs, the kitchen's tiny.
Have you got the number?
It's going to be somewhere in the region of 170,000.
Right.
Okay. There's a number of things which do depress the value, and the most significant thing is on the ground floor, the archway through to the rear car park has taken a big chunk of the ground floor away.
Some people might be disappointed to hear that the house they live in is worth less than some of the similar houses in the neighbourhood. Does it make you excited or discouraged?
Excited, because we actually thought it was going to be valued more, so 170,000 for us is better. At the end of the day, we'd rather own than rent because it's ours.
Dominic, what about the money? Well, obviously it makes the decision slightly more harder, really, because if it had been quite high, it would have made the decision for us, essentially. We wouldn't have been able to afford it, but now this sort of drops into the realms of it being possible, so we have to sort of now look at the wider implications.
Dominic and Denise can't work any harder, so it will all depend on what kind of mortgage deal they can get. We'll have to find out later. So what about other solutions? If you can't buy a home, perhaps you can build it. I've come down to Somerset to meet a woman who's gone back to basics. Sarah Bliss owns 4.5 acres, which she's turned into a bustling small holding. And with a little magic, she's fashioned her own home out of what was once the stable.
So this is the building. It used to be 3 stables.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, and the first stable here is my kitchen. It's made out of, as you can see, it's box profile.
Yeah.
And timber framed.
Not exactly grand designs, then.
Well, no, but then I don't want grand designs. I'm not material in the slightest. My interest in being here is the land.
It's cosy inside, but small and basic.
This is the main living space, so it's a sort of sofa and cupboards for clothes, bed.
There's not a huge amount of space, though. A lot of people want a large amount of space to live in, don't they? They want a big house.
I have a large amount of space. I've got 4.5 acres of space. I don't need space in the house.
Oh, well, let's go outdoors again, if that's where you prefer to be.
I prefer to be outside.
Okay.
I'm more relaxed outside.
Sarah argues she needs to be on the land every day to farm and run her business. Her view is, why shouldn't she live here too?
These pigs are part of your business, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're sort of the main part. They're the part that I'm most interested in.
Do they actually generate much of an income for you, though?
They generate a bit of an income. I wouldn't say that it was a huge income.
The rest of her farming income comes from her free-range hens and the sale of eggs, along with a few sheep.
But it's not really to make a living as a farmer that you moved here, is it?
No, it's about self-sufficiency, Andy. I'm not interested in money. It's about being able to live the kind of lifestyle I want to live in my tin shed.
But she's got a problem. Sarah didn't get planning permission for residential use before she converted the stable.
Did you know, when you started living here, that you shouldn't really be doing it?
It's not illegal, as far as I know, to live on your land without planning permission. And you can put in a retrospective planning application, which is what I did. I mean, what some people do is they try to live on their land for 4 years, and after 4 years they can apply for what's called a certificate of lawful use, which is what I have.
Will Sarah be able to get her retrospective planning permission? If it was green belt, she'd have no chance, but green fields are there to be argued over. While some people fear we'll lose the countryside, in England at least, less than 1/10 of the land's been developed.
The thing about market forces is they don't have much respect for beauty. If you want to stop market forces from paving over bits of the countryside, you do have to have something like planning. And there'll always be a tension between building affordable homes on the one hand and preserving beautiful countryside on the other. The question is, how much weight do you give to each?
This was once green field, 19 acres of it, on the edge of Basingstoke. The 300 houses planned here have been argued over for years. The council first agreed to this development and then changed their minds. Barratt had won the right to build on these fields and weren't going to give up that easily. Ian Tilbury became an independent councillor because he wanted to see more affordable housing, but he's entered a minefield.
Old Kempshot Road. What happened at this site, Ian?
Well, basically, it's been argued about for many years. The developer's been trying to build on it for, well over 10 years. Again, it comes to the same old argument. But
not in my backyard.
That's it. It comes back to the same reason. If people live on the outskirts of a town, they generally don't want anyone to build beyond it there.
Brenda Taylor lives across the road, so you can see her point of view. Have you opposed this development?
Yes, I wrote in a letter listing the reasons why I felt that it shouldn't go ahead.
There is this problem of a shortage of housing, and more houses have to be built, don't they?
Well, they do, but I think they need to plan them as a whole. When they did this one, they looked at the development here and its effect. They didn't take into account the fact that there's another one, another 100 yards down the road, that's got another 30, 40 odd houses going on it. They just take them as disparate developments, and they don't consider the whole effect that it's going to have.
Over at the show house opposite, I can see exactly what she's getting at. Having got an overview of all three sites, the council tried to veto this one.
You know when people say not in my backyard? This is what they mean.
A few doors up, Brenda's neighbour, Mr Hankinson, didn't want it either. Would you have opposed this if you could have done?
Oh, we did do it at the start, but now it has taken place, everyone's got to accept it, really. But one of our main concerns is the tremendous traffic it will produce.
Some people say people who oppose this sort of development are NIMBYs. They're saying, not in my backyard. What's your answer to that?
Well, that's, I suppose, true to some extent. But the older one gets, the harder it is to adapt, I'm afraid.
What would you say if I accused you of being a NIMBY?
I don't know what an NIMBY is.
Not in my backyard.
Oh, right. Yeah, isn't everybody? But if they're going to do it, then they need to consider the whole infrastructure of the area and how it affects it. And that, I don't think that's been done here at all.
Under pressure from the locals, the council reconsidered the plan to allow building on Old Kempshot Lane. But Barrett's, the developers, then appealed to the planning inspector.
The council were opposed to this development, weren't they? Was it worth it?
No. At the end of the day, it's probably going to cost the council about £100,000. We had costs awarded against us because we lost the appeal.
Gosh. £100,000 of council taxpayers' money for opposing housing.
That's it. And yet on the other hand, when the government gave us £500,000 a few years ago, because we managed to get so many planning permissions through the system.
Hang on, just let me get this straight. You're paying the money to pay the costs for losing when you were opposed to new housing, out of money meant for new housing.
That's it. The whole thing seems bizarre, doesn't it?
What needs to be done to allow local people to afford their own homes?
I think you've got to have greater competition in the market, basically. You need more affordable homes built by councils or local housing associations. You need more self-build. You need smaller builders to have a greater ability to build in the market, and you've got to break the stranglehold of the large developers, because while they control the supply, they control the price and the affordability.
Developers say they don't have a hold on supply, they just release houses steadily. Buying a house just isn't realistic for many. 6 million of us rent, including me, so what's wrong with it?
What happened here?
You remember Petra, not the world's biggest fan of damp pink houses? The Howard family are desperate to buy their own home, but they're priced out. So they're renting this one for $1,250 a month. Petra isn't happy about it.
It's okay for a rental, but John and I, we always have this running game, what we would do to the place, and then we're going around, and then we say, we would really go all the way down there, as far as the house goes, have this massive modern kitchen, you know.
We're not happy with renting because the limitations of renting, it's not your home, you're very limited in what you can do.
We have here a bathroom with a toilet.
Can we have a look? Would you change
this? And then we have another toilet.
Yeah.
Enough wood.
That's weird, 2 toilets so close.
I know. And I cannot even get in there.
We're not allowed to have a pet.
Have you asked the landlord or landlady?
Yes, we did. And we can understand their point of view. I guess we're just a transitory, people that live in their home.
Like any tenants, they could be asked to move at short notice when their children are settled at school.
This is our garage. Without, we wouldn't manage because...
Oh, what?
Half my life is boxed up here. There's another about 20 to 30 boxes behind here. John the other day was looking for something, but it's pointless. We can't find anything anymore.
Such a major operation to get anything out of there, I guess.
So that's my box up life.
Petra may be desperate to buy, but John's holding out for a price drop. Who will crack first?
That's one of the reasons why we do have arguments. I would like to hold back because I'm afraid of the risk. Because you're taking a risk, you're borrowing a huge amount of money against a property, and if prices stagnated or even fell, it's potential to lose a lot of money.
I'm almost 50 and I haven't had a chance to express myself in a house.
Petra thinks renting in this country is a raw deal.
Here, every form you fill in, even if you go to the doctor, is do you own a house or do you rent?
Do you think over here people do get looked down on for renting?
I think they do.
As fewer and fewer people can afford to buy their home, renting from private landlords is set to increase. But if we're struggling to build enough houses to meet demand, why don't we make more use of what's under our noses? Katie John is also sick of renting and wants to buy. She can't find anywhere either.
It's a good location, isn't it?
Perfect location.
What do you reckon they cost, one of those?
If you bought it now, it would probably cost you one bed about 200,000, maybe more.
But these empty flats in Hackney in London are not for sale. The council says the block will be rebuilt. Like thousands of properties around the country, there have been flats sitting empty here for 4 years.
We estimate there's about 840,000 empty homes in the UK at the moment, and that's about 1 in 30 of all the homes in this country. Well, there's two main reasons why homes are empty. One is owners who can't actually afford to put them right, and they're in an uninhabitable condition at the moment. The other reason is that people invest in property, and leaving a property empty actually still makes you an income, and this really isn't helping the problem of housing supply.
I think that it's a waste, and I think that something's gone wrong somewhere. There are people in their 20s, people coming out of university who would really make that house a home. And it's those people who councils should be providing incentives to, and those people will pay back into the area.
5 times the number of homes we build each year are just lying empty. While Katie has her eye on empty homes, Carlos is looking for an empty plot of land.
One day, this was all going to be yours.
It was going to all be mine.
What gave you that idea?
It's just another option at the end of the day. Self-build, it's a cheap way of producing a house. They just come down, they drop the house in place, you block it, render it, put the roof on, do all the amenities. The kit itself was £32,000, and that was for a 3-bedroom, single-storey bungalow. So I thought, that's a good idea. Found this plot of land that was for sale.
What did you actually have in mind for it?
Somewhere where we're standing here would have been some sort of garage block with possibility of a small recording studio, later
recording studio?
Yeah.
This is a proper fantasy home, isn't it?
Not to sound too snobby, I'd like to have had a tennis court.
A tennis court? Where would you put that? Show us where you put that.
You'd probably have had it somewhere over here. I mean, we're talking...
But spending $36,000 on just the plot with no planning permission, big gamble.
My offer was actually accepted. So you then go through the process of going to the council, and that's what I did. And they just turned around and said, no chance. They said, your grandchildren's grandchildren will probably be able to build on there.
Why?
Because it's outside of the area of building in Basingstoke, which actually I do believe is just at the end of this other field.
With no chance of getting planning permission, there was no point in buying, so Carlos walked away.
Some people might say you're being a bit naive, thinking you could just buy some land and dump a kit house on it.
I don't think it's so much naivety. You've got to, at the end of the day, if you're in a situation like with me where I can't afford to buy a house, then you've got to look at every avenue to find somewhere to live.
I didn't really know about it.
I wanted to ask Councillor Ian Tilbury about Carlos's problem.
It's ironic, we're being forced to release large chunks of greenfield sites to big developers, yet we can't release small pieces of land to someone like Carlos who probably would get on and build the houses.
Well, Carlos says that the council won't listen. Carlos says the council is full of older people who are nicely settled in their homes, thank you very much, not thinking of the needs of younger people.
Very often they'll argue they do understand the problem, but I don't think they realise just how bad it is now.
So is it the landowners who don't want to sell land for housing?
What if someone from the council came up to you and said, look, we want to build some houses on your land? Would you be willing to do that?
Oh, absolutely. Of course we talk to them.
What would stand in the way of the houses being built then?
Well, I think there would be all sorts of opposition from local people. They would like to preserve the village as a village, and I have some sympathy with that. I think the council have very definite views of where the houses should go, and they have a 10-year plan, and if the land is not in the 10-year plan, it is very difficult to get planning permission to build houses, even low-cost housing.
But it's not you who's opposed?
No, certainly not.
Sarah Bliss has bought her own land. She converted her stable into a house without getting planning permission for what's known as change of use.
You must accept that there are reasons why we have rules about planning, reasons why you can't just start putting up a dwelling anywhere in the countryside.
Yeah, I understand their policies, but I think that they need to change their policies to accommodate people like me, because there are thousands of us. What they turned it down on the last time with the enforcement notice was, I don't make enough money, I'm not viable.
Oh, your business. And because it's not viable, therefore that can't be a reason for living here.
That's right. What I find so frustrating about this is that if they throw me off the land, they will have to house me. Why don't they just leave me here so that I don't have to become a burden on them?
Andy Verity, nice to meet you.
Oh, you're there.
I've come with Sarah to the local pub to meet Barry Saville Dorr, leader of the parish council. He's invited councillors and supporters to join him. Sarah's bracing herself.
We had to save. We had to save.
Do you own a field next to Sarah's house?
Sarah's house? Sarah's plot of land, yes.
The land was bought as agricultural land. It's now like a garden up there. It should be agricultural field.
There's more people.
At least 30 people own land between Oddcombe and Ham Hill. Just odd fields. And if all of them start building houses, having caravans, the whole place is going to end up looking like a shanty town.
The rules are there for the benefit of Sarah, the benefit of me, the benefit of Mary, Bridget, everybody. They're there for everybody. She has, without a doubt, deliberately flouted the planning rules.
The argument seems to be, Sarah, that you're giving yourself an unfair privilege. Everybody else is in the same situation.
But they are complying.
What's your answer to that?
It's totally unfair that the planning department can do exactly what they like with development lines, and yet because the development line, or they're saying that the development line is there and I'm not inside it, I can't.
And you maintain that your situation...
It's an unjust system, and what I am trying to do is to make the planning laws more flexible in order that people can do worthwhile things on small plots of land outside the development line if necessary.
Why should you be a special case, Sarah?
Yeah.
It's not about why I should be a special case.
It is.
I am a special case.
No, I would.
But I am a special case. You're telling me that I'm a special case.
But I'm asking you why you think you should be.
Because I'm there.
Well, you shouldn't be there. I'm there. You bought Why it can't as I do a the piece same? of garden.
Well, if you wanted to live in a tin shed on your land, Mary, you could do that. But you don't want to live in a tin shed on your land.
Actually
you want to build a house, and I don't.
If the enforcement people had been working properly and quickly enough, she would have been off that site.
I like Sarah's enterprise. I just don't really think she should live there.
I bought that land. I saved for that land. And I can stay on my land from light to dark, and none of you can stop me. So it is going to make no difference to you whatsoever whether I stay overnight or whether I don't. I shall go on doing what I'm doing, and why shouldn't I? It's my land.
If there's planning law, either we all obey it or none of us obey it, and we can have anarchy. That is what it amounts to.
We're talking about not making it an attractive option so that all the other plots of land haven't got people building themselves shelters, which in due course will become bungalows, which will become houses.
Okay, thin end of the wedge.
Have garages, which will have
All right, I
swimming
think maybe we all need a drink. I'm going to go and get us all a drink.
Yeah, that's very kind of you.
I'm still going to...
We'll find out later if Sarah's last-ditch appeal to the planning department bought her more time. Dominic and Denise don't know yet if they can afford to buy their house, it's been valued for less than they thought. But what does that mean in mortgage terms? The housing associations sent round a mortgage broker to crunch the numbers for them and tell them what the monthly cost will be.
What I've done is got some figures together for you. We've used a mortgage term to take you up to your retirement age. But if we were using a 23-year term, we'd be looking at a monthly payment of about £1,064.
That's not bad. And is that on an interest rate of?
That's on an interest rate of 6.24.
Would you be interested in that? It's a lot more than you're paying in rent.
Yeah, it is, and of course that's just the mortgage itself, and there would be associated costs above that.
What about something like one of the government's flagship ideas, that you have shared ownership? You buy half of it and you rent the other half.
There seems to be a fundamental flaw in shared ownership. Why would someone encourage you to buy something if you can't afford to buy it in the first place? I don't want to buy half a newspaper. If I can't afford to buy it, I'm not going to buy it.
We may as well carry on renting if that's the case.
And what we'll see happen is the half that we don't own, if it continues as it has done, will continue to rise, and that'll be even further away from us. And then we'll be tied into a situation where we don't even own the property we're in. We own half of it.
I think we've just got to a position now, for the first time in our lives, where we're comfortable with what income we've got coming in. So it'd be nice to be able to keep hold of the luxuries that we've just started to be able to afford.
The reality is that there's so many volatile elements going on in the housing market and in the financial markets as it stands now. I don't think it's a decision we can make lightly. We'll need to discuss it with the rest of our family, because it's obviously going to have an impact on them. And I'm not quite sure really what the outcome of that decision is going to be.
Clearly it's going to be...
Will they give up their luxuries to buy this house? No more football club or foreign holidays? With changes happening in the housing market, they've got a tough decision ahead of them. Has the housing minister got any advice?
We spoke to a key worker living in Wiltshire. The house they're living in, they'd like to afford it. They can't afford it, even though it's supposed to be an affordable house.
What you're asking us to do is invest in an overinflated housing market. We know it's overinflated. What we'd actually like is some sort of correction, perhaps government-driven, that would bring that back into its line.
What's your response to that?
Well, I don't think it's for the government to predict what's going to happen in the short term in terms of the housing market, nor do I think it's right for us to talk about the government trying to push house prices down.
How else are they made affordable?
It would affect, people right across the market and cause all kinds of problems. What we can try and do is give people a wider range of options, and what we can also try and do is to deal with that long-term need for more housing, because, unless we do that, we're just going to see the problems grow.
This is one of 550 publicly owned brownfield sites the government thinks could be built on. It's disused land on the north side of Basingstoke. Previously owned by the Ministry of Defence, Bramley has been a theatre of war for decades. Welcome to the combat zone.
Play area will be roughly where that mound is there.
Right, and the houses all around this little triangle?
Yeah, they'll be framing it.
You might be excused for thinking that a site which includes 81 affordable homes would be welcome in a place like this, but in the adjoining village, that's not how everyone sees it.
In the 20 years, this village has reached a saturation point. 270 houses means 550 more adults, means 480 more children, means 300 more cars, and nobody says anything about the infrastructure.
Peter Truscott is the man in charge of the project. Round one went to him.
So tell me the story of how you got involved around here.
Well, we bought the site in 1992. This was...
1992?
Yeah, that's right. This was redundant MOD property that was sold in 1992. We got planning within 2 years on the first phase, but it's taken since then to get planning consent for the second phase of the development.
So what has got in the way for 15 years?
Well, a number of things, really. There is basically a difficulty in this country in that people see housing development at times as being a bad thing, and people want to stop it. So no matter how logical it would appear when you're looking at a site like this, there are always reasons why not to develop it.
And this is just one of them.
This is the Bramley Primary School, which is a huge success. Unfortunately, for any development that is proposed in Bramley, this school is full.
Round two went to the objectors. Time to retreat to the bunker. Can the town planning expert explain this battle?
Why does it take 15 years?
In some cases it is hard to justify such a length of time. But if you look at Bramley, there's the worry about cars and the worry about traffic. There's the worry about schools. People say that NIMBYs resist housing. They don't resist housing. They resist the impact of housing that's going to happen to the place that they live, and that's what they're resisting. And we try and change that by saying to the developer, you bring some things to this area that wouldn't have come otherwise. You help improve the school. You build a community centre. You protect some of that woodland.
So where are we going?
Well, at the northern part of the site, it's been designated as a nature conservation area, which is where we've translocated the pale toad flax.
Conservation in an area like this?
Yeah.
There are certain ecological issues on the site that we've had to deal with, and this plant only grows in this sort of environment.
It's going to be a bit hard to find because it's a relatively small plant. Just need to keep your eyes open.
There have been 1 or 2 reptiles that have been discovered here. In particular, we've got slow worms, and they're being relocated to another part of the Ministry of Defence estate.
The slow worms are being rehoused?
That's right. The process will take about 3 months.
And they have their own fence to keep them out. A success while we were there. Not one in sight.
This legislation and the protection that we give our plants and animals is there to give consideration to them so that people just can't say, I want to build that there.
And it's because of European law that developers have to go to such great lengths to preserve the environment.
We've spent around £250,000 on dealing with these ecological issues, but that's part of the package.
£250,000 rehousing slow worms?
Well, it's not just the slow worms, that's also dealing with the pale toad flax.
How do you spot it?
It's quite a pale green leaf. Oh, here we go. That's the pale toad flax.
You have to have a sharp eye to spot the things.
Yeah.
What's so special about that, Ali?
It's considered to be scarce in Hampshire.
Next to a railroad.
In spite of their best efforts, round 3 went to the planning inspector, who said no to development.
When you just look at this, if you can't build housing here, you sort of wonder where you can build housing.
This fight went all the way to the then Secretary of State, who ruled building would go ahead. The developers won this battle, but not the war.
When the government overrides local objections, how does that make you feel as a local politician?
Pretty cross, I have to say. The inspectors who've made the decision to refuse it have actually been to look at the village. They've looked at the local area, they've understood the problems. And then we have a minister who makes a decision, probably never having been near the place.
It may have been Yvette Cooper's predecessor who ruled on the fate of Bramley, but it illustrates the battle between local and central government that's being played out up and down the nation. More building can be a vote loser locally, but central government reserves the right to intervene.
We want to actually provide more money, more financial support for those councils that are doing their bit, identifying land, doing their bit to make sure homes get built. They need to identify good sites for more homes, and then they need to support the applications through the planning process much more rapidly than they've done before.
With such a big shortage of available homes and growing waiting lists, what can councils do about it?
Hello.
Hello.
You must be Louise.
Yep. Hiya.
Nice to meet you. So this is the place, eh?
Yeah, this is it. You want to show you around?
Yeah, please, yeah.
This is the kitchen.
Some work still being done here, I see, yeah?
Yeah.
Louise is about to move into a flat with a difference. It's bright and light, even has a garden. Here in Wandsworth, they're trying something different. As land is so expensive, the council's converting every space available into something worth living in. They call them hidden homes.
That's just the bathroom.
Yeah.
Nice size.
Nice bright space.
Yeah, and then this is the front room.
Yeah.
But you'd never guess what it used to be. Once, Louise's flat was just like this.
This is a parking area that has been pretty much unused for a number of years. It was very unpopular, I think, for the reasons that you can see. It's very dark and dingy.
It's not exactly prime location, is it?
Well, no, I think on first impressions it clearly isn't. As a location, we need to do something with it, and that's why we've come up with the idea of creating some high-quality, affordable housing in this area, and we're optimistic that we can get 10 one-bedroom units in this space. They'll all be facing out into the garden, so they'll all have nice aspects looking out and plenty of natural light coming into the properties.
It's not just car parks they're converting. It's empty shops, lift areas, boiler rooms. But the most unusual one of all is probably this one. Bet you can't guess what it used to be.
It was a mortuary.
That's quite correct.
You didn't lose any sleep or have any bad dreams about moving into a mortuary?
No, someone told me that, as I say, they were never used. I know them as caretakers' lodges, and therefore I didn't have any sleepless nights. I think the council did a very good conversion. Outside it looks a bungalow, and inside it looks like a TARDIS.
Wandsworth has built 130 hidden homes out of existing buildings and expect to create another 300. But why are so few local authorities bucking the trend in council house building?
For every unit of accommodation that a council would build, it would actually lose housing subsidy.
You lose money for creating more homes?
Yes, so it's a disincentive, which is why virtually no other councils in the country have been building council homes, and Wandsworth is quite unique in that regard.
If we're to meet the target of 3 million new homes by 2020, will the government use this idea and roll it out across the country? There's no sign as yet. Unhappy with renting in England, Petra's come to Germany to see her brother Thomas.
Thomas. Hi. Na, wie geht's?
He also rents, but being a tenant here is quite different. They get more for their money, and they've been able to make the changes they want.
Hello. Wow. God. This is fantastic.
Yes.
And that's Hannah's room?
Yes.
They even bought their own floorboards, and their landlord fitted them.
Yeah, the real floor.
Yeah.
It's
very
it's
nice.
beautiful decorated. Oh, that's a nice size. That's about 4 times my bathroom. When can I move in?
Yes.
Just to rub it in, they even got a puppy.
He's so cute.
Yes.
No, we're not allowed to have animals.
You're not allowed.
We're not even allowed to have a cat.
Petra's rent is 3 times what her brother pays for this garden flat. And in Germany, tenants are protected by law. They can stay as long as they like. Thomas's landlord drops round for a visit. The balance between landlord and tenant is different in Germany.
Also rein rechtlich ist es so, die Mieter müssen den Vermieter fragen.
Stefan says you have to have a really good reason to say no. Otherwise, you have to allow the tenants to have a pet. With lots of different plants and everything.
Yes.
It's so relaxing here.
Yeah.
In Germany, the grass is greener for tenants. In Germany, if a landlord wants to get their tenant out, they have to prove they need the property for their own use.
I would really like if that would be the same way in England. If I could just rent a place and make it my own. Just let me do with the place what I want.
It's called Lake Teich.
Back in Wiltshire, it's the day of reckoning. Dominic and his family are about to make the big decision.
The bottom line is that we would be very vulnerable to a change in interest rates.
If they decide to buy their housing association house, their total cost per month will be about £1,200, 3 times their rent.
What it would mean is that we wouldn't have a lot of money to spend on other things. So we would have to look at literally every area of what we currently spend and make some changes. So
What we want to know is what you guys think.
It'd be really nice to have our own house, but it's a lot of money.
yeah, it is a lot of money.
If we buy the house, we won't have no rent, so there's nothing to worry about.
Only after 25 years out. It's going to take 25 years.
But that means 25 years of paying out £1,200 a month.
So things like going out, things like going to the football, things like going out on nights out, things like maybe having a takeaway, those are the sort of things which we would have to cut out.
I think I'd rather be at Arsenal than in our own house.
Buy the house.
It's time for the vote.
With the risk of buying the house, if I had to ask for your opinion now, what would it be? And what would you say?
No, because we won't be able to afford to do stuff that I like doing, like go and watch Arsenal, and you'll get rid of Sky, so I can't watch MTV, and I won't be able to go shopping.
Yes, because I would love to have our own house, because we'd be able to do like more to the garden, the house, our bedrooms, just be much more comfortable.
What's your vote, Al?
Yes, I would like to buy the house because it's very cosy.
Mum and I have discussed it in detail over a few weeks, and the truth is it's right at the limit that we can afford, so we're going to probably not buy the house. It's too much of a risk.
It's your house. To be honest, you should decide what you do and what's best for the family.
I think it's the right thing to do because, to be honest, if you were to start paying the mortgage at £1,200 and the interest rates to go up and default on the mortgage, we're going to be left homeless.
Petra's back from Germany. It's brought her life here into sharp focus.
How did you feel when you saw how your brother lived?
I couldn't believe it, the way he was living. I was jealous. I thought that's exactly how I want to live. I want to live in a cute little village with a cute little... I think people should stop being so obsessed about property. I think the law should be changed. It should be more tenant-orientated, so more people are willing to rent and not feeling they have to buy.
Petra and John are hanging in there.
Don't worry about it. We'll find something.
Sarah Bliss is living on her land without planning permission. Her battle to stay is almost over. She's lost her appeal, and the district council have told her to be out by November the 5th. That's Monday.
I think that the enforcement officer will come and see me next week, which will mean I'll have to take every single thing out of this kitchen, everything, to return it back to the stable that it was originally. I feel it's all so pointless, you know, to hound somebody out of their home for so little a reason.
It could happen that she is actually physically removed by bailiffs and police officers. I hope it doesn't come to that, and I hope she'll be sensible and deal with it in the proper way.
Maybe it's just not the right time, but hopefully in the future it might be. Who knows?
Everywhere I've been, people have told me they want to enjoy the fruits of their hard work. That means a home they can afford. For that, we will need more houses. Ian Tilbury's taking me to the edge of Basingstoke, the next front line.
Well, this is Manydown. As far as you can see, right over in that direction, it's a massive greenfield site with the potential for around 8,000 houses.
Even if enough land is released to hit national targets, and official reports just said that won't be enough to correct a failing market. More important is where we expect house prices to go. If we think they'll slow down, we won't be willing to pay as much.
Houses, as far as you can see?
Yeah, that's it, right the way round over that side, right as far as you can see out to there, 8,000 houses. It's not an appealing prospect to most people round here. It sucks in commuters who want to move out of London to live in the countryside, ironically destroying the very thing they've come here to appreciate in many cases.
OK, show me again where it's going to go.
We now invest so much hope in our homes that prices reflect the weight of our expectations. But 4 walls and a roof shouldn't be a distant dream. They should supply a simple necessity, a place to live.
Light's fading. Let's go for a drink.